The Guyver was originally a Japanese comic book, and this is a film adaptation that was released by New Line Cinema in 1991, the same company that did the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. So I'd say that this film was somewhat of a reaction to the success of those.
Awesome!
Trying to get anything that they could into theaters that was a comic book adaptation with guys in rubber suits. The main character, Sean Barker, aka the Guyver, is played by Jack Armstrong. He's a pretty bad actor and doesn't make the character of the Guyver compelling at all. He's got a girlfriend here played by Vivian Wu, the same actress who played Mitsu in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. She's not very good in this, and she wasn't anything special in Ninja Turtles 3 either. But what was good in that movie? God, that movie sucked.
Yeah, we get the picture.
The villains are all played by recognizable actors. One of them is played by Michael Berryman, who you might remember from the original The Hills Have Eyes. There's Jimmy Walker, most famous for his catchphrase Dynamite on the TV sitcom Good Times.
Dynamite!
He plays one of the alien creatures and does a bunch of rapping, which isn't funny, and he just gets on my nerves.
Ain't gonna make you sing, cause I want that jiving, jiving thing. Boy!
The lead bad guy was played by David Gale, who was the Doctor in Reanimator. And then there's another Reanimator alumni, Jeffrey Combs, who shows up for a little bit, and he's one of the scientists. In Reanimator, he was called Dr. West, and here he's called Dr. East.
Dr. East.
So there's some pointless trivia for you. And then there's Mark Hamill. Now, the first thing I want to say is, take a look at the DVD's front cover and tell me what you think looks wrong. It's Mark Hamill's face, but Mark Hamill doesn't play the Guyver in the movie. He's just a CIA agent. Yeah, it's just a big scam to get you to buy the DVD because he was in Star Wars. Of course they wanted to lead you to believe that he was going to be the hero. I mean, after all, he was one of the greatest sci-fi heroes of all time. But in reality, putting him on the cover does nothing but set the home viewer up for disappointment. Not only is he not actually the Guyver, but the character he does play is completely useless. He doesn't even need to be there. The story, what little of it there is, all revolves around the Guyver, and Hamill just seems like a pointless tag-along. He's only there for the name value, because he was in Star Wars, no other reason. And this wasn't the only time he was thrown into a film just to sell it. He was also in a movie called Laserhawk, where he appears for about 5 minutes and then dies in a car crash. I feel kind of bad for him. Hollywood just uses him like he's a $2 whore. But, you know, I can't really blame them for trying to sell the DVD by connecting it to Star Wars, because while I was watching the fight scenes, I was pretty much hoping he'd just pull out a lightsaber and start killing all the bad guys with it. Luke Skywalker with a mustache. That is just not right. The movie starts off where Sean is taking a karate class to learn to defend himself, but he's not paying attention and he gets his ass kicked. Then when he leaves, his motorbike breaks down in an alley and he's assaulted by some thugs, where again he gets his ass kicked. Of course, this is all leading up to where Sean is transformed into the Guyver.
Sick of something!
And now he's the one who's going to do the ass whooping. It's really predictable. The fight scenes are pretty crappy too. Most of the time, he's just picking people up and throwing them. This movie could have been vastly improved if they just had some better choreography. The villain ends up turning into this giant devil-like monster at the end.
Holy shit!
And the Guyver tries to fight it off, but he just gets his ass kicked like usual. So it's about to kill him, but then the Guyver's chest piece opens up, a light shoots out, and kills the giant demon fucker. There's nothing heroic about any of this. The suit itself is what stopped the bad guy, not the actions of the man. It would be kind of like if Batman was just standing there getting kicked in the nuts, while the Batmobile, left on automatic, just shot a missile and killed the Joker by itself. The point is, the suit does all the work, leaving nothing to cheer for when it comes to this bargain bin superhero. Yeah, so the Guyver is actually just a suit, which is essentially just a shield. They also say that it's the most amazing weapon since the atom bomb, but it really doesn't seem like such a great device if you ask me. All somebody has to do is hit the round circle on his head, which is the weak spot, and that shuts it down. As a hero, the Guyver just sucks, no matter which way you slice it. The special effects were done by Screaming Mad George, who worked on Arena and Bride of Reanimator. This movie's just like a big Reanimator reunion, isn't it? The rubber suits are pretty well done, and the characters all blink and have expressions. One of them has red fur, and another one looks like an elephant. So there was at least some variety and thought put into their designs. I'll have to at least give some credit for that. Usually I love this kind of stuff. I'm a Godzilla fan, and in most cases I can't get enough of guys in rubber suits beating the hell out of each other. But these fight scenes just go on way too long. It's entertaining for the first few minutes, but after a while you're just hoping they'll get back to some actual storytelling, because it just becomes pointless after a while. Like, enough with the rubber suits, let's have some plot development. The Guyver was directed by Steve Wang, and while he missed the mark with the first one, he picked up the pieces with The Guyver 2, which is a much better flick. There's a new actor playing the Guyver, David Hayter, who did the voice of Snake in the Metal Gear Solid games, and he's just much better all around in the role. Once again, he's got to fight off all these monsters called zoonoids or something in order to save mankind. The first film had a really campy feeling to it, while this one is more serious and doesn't come off as being silly. The main reason to watch this sequel is for the well-done fight sequences. It's just much more well choreographed than the last one, and I was genuinely impressed watching some of the stunt people execute such aerobic fight moves while wearing such heavy suits. And it's much more violent than the first. Skulls are crushed, eyeballs are like blasted out of their sockets, and the alien gets his head cut off. And another one is impaled in the stomach multiple times, and his hands are broken off at the wrists. Fuck yes, this is awesome. Some parts even seem kind of influenced by Tim Burton's Batman. This scene, for example, reminds me of when Batman's fighting that guy in the alley with the swords, the way he uses his arms to deflect the sword attacks. It's a darker, grittier film, where all the death scenes are graphic and bloody. It's pretty cool. The storyline is much more interesting for this one. For one thing, this time, Sean is having an inner struggle, kind of like Peter Parker in Spider-Man 3, where he has to fight the urge not to become evil. For example, near the beginning, one of the bad guys is pleading for his life, asking to only be arrested.
Please, don't kill me, just arrest me.
The Guyver thinks it over for a second, and then he slices his neck. That is awesome. We're also given much more background about the origins of the Guyver suit and where all the aliens came from, making everything just much more intriguing than the first movie. This film is by no means a masterpiece or anything, but it is a huge step up from the first one. It can't compare to today's mammoth budget comic book adaptation blockbusters, but it's good considering the time it was made and the minimal funds they had to work with. In short, just skip the first film and watch the sequel.